There has been plenty of reaction to Jey Uso winning the 2025 WWE Men's Royal Rumble match because, well, it was a surprise to a lot of people. The most surprising WWE Royal Rumble winner of all time, without question, is Jey Uso. And it's because of how stacked the lineup was heading into this, right? It was all about John Cena, Roman Reigns, CM Punk, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, Sami Zayn, and on and on and on. I said in a previous video, I thought this was the most well-built Royal Rumble match in history. And so, for that reason, you're thinking, okay, when you're listing off the names at the top, it was understandable why people thought John Cena would be the winner, why people thought that Punk would win, why Reigns could win, why Rollins could win, and so forth. But it's Jey Uso. It's the person who has been kind of a polarizing figure, I'd say, for the online wrestling community for a while now, based on the fact that, well, Jey has certainly gotten himself over. There's no questioning that. But sure, his matches and promos to some people may leave a lot to be desired. So you did have a bit of a mix online in terms of the reaction to Jey Uso winning the Rumble to guarantee his spot in a main event match at WrestleMania 41. And with all the different combinations of matches we thought that could headline night 1 or night 2 of WrestleMania 41 in Las Vegas, I don't know how many people had Jey Uso slotted necessarily into one of those matches. We were thinking this could be John Cena versus Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns versus CM Punk, The Rock versus someone. Those were all the matches that were being bantered about. But now we know Jey is going to be promised and guaranteed one of those matches. And we have to, I think, at some point admit that the real reason that Jey Uso is getting that opportunity is honestly not that complicated at all. And it makes a lot of sense from WWE's perspective why Jey was the rightful choice to win the WWE Royal Rumble in their eyes. Now, if we go back at the start, think about this. We did a video 2 weeks ago talking about, is WWE about to go all the way with Jey Uso, right? We talked about the setup leading into his match against Gunther at Saturday night's main event. And I mentioned the segment they had on that Raw, where Jey and Gunther, get into a little shoving match there. Jey knocks Gunther out, and the championship is laying right there on the mat. So what does Jey do? Well, he picks up the title. But the bigger story was the reaction whenever Jey picked up that championship. The place came unglued at the thought of Jey holding that title in his hands, right? So you're thinking, all right, maybe there is that possibility. Could WWE shock us then and have Jey beat Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship in San Antonio? It didn't happen. Gunther won that match clean, but during the match, they had us bite on a couple of those near falls where, again, the crowd was completely into it. The idea that Jey was about to knock off Gunther and win the championship. Fast forward, and now rewind, to the Royal Rumble, where Jey knocks John Cena off the apron and becomes, again, the surprising winner for most people to get his spot at WrestleMania 41. Now, I know immediately, because I was online, and I was getting ready to do a live stream here on this channel, which you can watch for our immediate thoughts on the Royal Rumble on Saturday night. I know I saw a lot of people saying, what in the world just happened? How could they possibly do this? How is Jey the person, with John Cena, CM Punk, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and everybody else in this match, how is Jey the choice? Well, all you had to do was watch the post-match, where Jey knocks Cena out, and you look around, and 65,000 plus people are in the building, and I don't know if it was all 65,000 plus, but I would say about 95% of them are yeeting all over the place. Yeet everywhere in Indianapolis at Lucas Oil. And so that really tells us all we need to know about why WWE made this decision, because it is always going to be about the online reaction versus the arena reaction. And think about the 3 different scenarios we just talked about in the arena reaction to Jey Uso winning. Picking up the title, huge response on Raw. Having the near falls where he almost beats Gunther at Saturday night's main event, huge response from the crowd. And then Jey Uso knocking out the person whose farewell tour has officially begun. It's going to be the biggest thing in WWE this year. John Cena's farewell tour. And he knocks out John Cena, of all people, that everyone's, not maybe everyone, but a lot of people are rooting for him to break that 17th world record, title holder here. Like, that's what everyone wants to see from John Cena this year. And Jey takes away that opportunity. And yet there are still so many people in the arena that are fully behind this idea that Jey just got his big moment in WWE, right? And now he's one step closer to the biggest moment of all, of becoming a world champion. Now think about, again, the video we did a couple weeks ago, talking about the idea that it was going to happen at some point. Maybe it wasn't going to happen at Saturday night's main event, but at some point this year, Jey Uso was going to win the world title. It became not just hey, let's use the Paul Heyman line. It didn't become a prediction. It became a spoiler, like it's going to happen. And now, maybe it's much closer than we thought. Because again, this goes back to reaction online versus reaction in the arenas. The people who are buying the tickets, the people who are buying the merch, everything in WWE's eyes tells us, and they're not just their eyes, in their accountants' books, right? In their accounting, everything tells us that Jey Uso is one of the most over stars in professional wrestling right now, because he's one of the most over stars in the biggest company in the world. So it's not a hard choice to make with Jey winning the Royal Rumble, even with such a stacked lineup. And one of the reasons why, again, goes back to the idea that there are paths for John Cena and everyone else to still get their WrestleMania 41 main event, to still get their big match at WrestleMania 41. It's not going to be for everyone, but there are still ways to get there. And so I don't think it's really that complicated when we try to find the real reason. But we can go a little bit deeper than just this, because we can talk about the arguments against the idea that Jey Uso should have won this Rumble. And people are going to bring up, well, and I saw this tweet a lot, Jey just went from having the worst match at WrestleMania 40 to now getting the opportunity to go main event WrestleMania 41. What is WWE thinking, right? How could they possibly make that decision knowing that he had the worst match at WrestleMania 40? Well, here's what's interesting about that. Maybe he had the worst match in terms of star ratings or whatever else you want to use to measure matches. But all I know is this. Jey may have had the worst match, and trust me, we talked about it after the fact. It was very underwhelming. There's no question. Jey versus Jimmy Uso was a very underwhelming match. But all I know is that Jey has gotten more popular since then. More and more popular. People are buying into Jey more than ever when you watch the actual product on the screen. So, even if he had the worst match last year, even if it was one of the worst matches in the history of WrestleMania, he's only gotten more over and he's only gotten more popular. And so, who am I to say that they should ignore that and do something else, right? So that's one of the reasons why they chose this. Now, I've seen a lot of people say this too. LA Knight was in a similar position. Was he not? The crowd completely bought into LA Knight. He got himself over. He became one of the biggest stars in the company in terms of the reactions. That's completely true. It's a factual statement. He did become one of the top stars in the company. And he never got these opportunities, right? He didn't win a Royal Rumble. He didn't get that big time match outside of, getting that 1-2 shot, something like that. He didn't really get that sustained momentum the way that Jey's gotten it in terms of opportunity after opportunity, right? He got a couple of them, but he didn't get it the way Jey's gotten it. Certainly not winning a Royal Rumble. But there's a big difference between Jey Uso and LA Knight. Jey Uso has been one of the centerpieces of the most profitable WWE storyline in years with the Bloodline. Jey has been one of the focal points of that. At sometimes, Jey has been the focal point, even with Roman Reigns and Jimmy Uso and Sami Zayn and Solo Sikoa. Jey Uso at times was the center of attention in the biggest storyline in WWE in many years. And again, the most profitable one. So, once again, there's another check in Jey's direction there as to why it makes sense to go this route. And then you can take it another step further, right? And again, it's all about the journey of Jey Uso and where he started and where he is now, and seeing the way the crowd has responded to what they want to see. And it is always about what does the crowd want to see. There is always going to be a difference in maybe what even I think, what we sometimes think online, versus what you're going to see in the arena. Like I said, would Jey have been my first choice to win the Rumble? No. But I completely understand why he did it. And everybody can sort of have the opinion that, hey, Jey only can do this. He can only say a 4-letter word. You may have other 4-letter words to say about him winning the Rumble, but he only can say a 4-letter word, yeet, and that is the basis of his promo. He only has a couple moves or whatever else we want to use as an argument against him. But I also think about some of the biggest stars in the history of WWE, and I think about how simple it was for them to become some of the biggest stars in WWE history. John Cena was known for what? The 5 moves of doom. The promos were always the same, were they not? And then, you had other guys who have had certainly success over the years in being in top roles in WWE that kept it pretty simple. You don't have to be the guy, as I've said before, that has 5-star matches every single night. You don't have to be the guy that comes out and reinvents the wheel every single week and has to come up with something new every single week to try to get yourself over. Jey has found something that worked. WWE has found something that has worked with Jey Uso. And now his journey is almost complete in terms of being able to finally get to the point. Remember, I said go all the way back to the initial story of the Bloodline, where he's having the Hell in a Cell match with Roman Reigns and all the different things from there. Jey decides to branch off on his own. He had to leave the Bloodline. We knew why he was leaving the Bloodline. He wanted to prove he could do it on his own. Well, he finally wins the Intercontinental Championship. And now it's about taking that next step forward. The guy has main evented WrestleMania before as a tag team guy, right? With the Usos, losing to Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn a couple of years ago. But now he wanted to prove he could do it by himself. He's become the Intercontinental Champion. He's going to become the World Heavyweight Champion, whether it's at WrestleMania or beyond. It's going to happen. And I think, once again, with John Cena and Roman Reigns and CM Punk and Seth Rollins and so forth, there are clearly other paths to find for them at this year's WrestleMania. And again, are there matches that I would have preferred to see probably out of this group to where maybe one of them winning the Royal Rumble made more sense or would have been more intriguing for me? Absolutely. Because again, I was set on the idea that you do Reigns versus Punk, Cody versus Cena. And I say all that knowing and thinking that we were not going to get The Rock at WrestleMania 41, which as of now, there's no reason to believe. We are going to get The Rock at WrestleMania 41. So there were different match combinations that I enjoyed a lot more than this. But I also am not the person running a multi-billion-dollar company and seeing the bottom line and seeing how the crowd reacts to one of my biggest superstars in the company right now, one of my most over superstars, the person who's selling some of the biggest, merch sales there is out there in professional wrestling right now, and that's Jey Uso. And again, it's not going to be everyone's first choice. It is always going to be polarizing when you have guys like this. But it's not that entirely different. Now, there are some differences, but it's not that entirely different from all the things we used to see with John Cena and other people that became, kind of in a top star role, or maybe, is Jey ever going to be John Cena in terms of what he was doing, carrying the company for that many years? No, he's not going to be put in that kind of position. But in terms of the same criticisms and all that, these were the people that still were getting the biggest reaction, and Jey has now become that. He's become someone who's getting such a monumental reaction every single week that you can't ignore it. And so even if it is a guy who's just built on an entrance, a catchphrase, and a couple other things, that's professional wrestling. The biggest stars have always been built on that as kind of the foundation. Some of them had a little more than that, right? They maybe were able to go out and have the 5-star matches or whatever we want to use for the rating system. But the people who can draw money, which Jey Uso is drawing money, those are the ones who are always going to find a way to the top when it comes to a business. And WWE is a business. And so, again, it's kind of a wild thing that I never thought we'd be having this conversation. Even when we did the video a couple weeks ago about Jey maybe getting that opportunity for WWE to go all the way to make that final push for Jey Uso, we thought it would be simply winning the World Heavyweight Championship against Gunther. But what do you know? It may still simply be winning the World Heavyweight Championship against Gunther, just with another signature moment on his resume now, winning the Royal Rumble. So that's the real reason why Jey won the Royal Rumble. And I think, again, there are many reasons why WWE should have done it, and they did it. And it's not going to be a move that everyone's going to agree with, but you're never going to get that. Because here's the thing, too. Had Cena won, a lot of people who were rooting for Punk would have been pissed off. People rooting for Reigns, people rooting for Rollins, and so forth. Had Reigns won, people would have been upset, some people, at the idea of doing Reigns versus Cody Part 3. Had Punk won, then you're saying, okay, well, Punk, take this away from Cena, and what are we going to... Cena can get through the Elimination Chamber. It's clear that Reigns, Punk, and Rollins have their own thing going now into WrestleMania 41. If it's a simple triple threat, Probably not my favorite thing in the world. But we still have ways to go to know exactly what it's going to be. Jey getting his opportunity was always going to happen. They decided to let it happen through the Rumble. And until the crowd start turning on Jey Uso, until that happens, they're not yet, and they're nowhere close to that, then WWE needs to keep doing what they're doing with Jey, and that's what they've decided on this. I thought more of the backlash, to be honest with you, would come with the Women's Rumble, with Charlotte Flair walking right back in and winning the thing. But it seems like more of the backlash has come on the men's side. But there you go. There are my thoughts. I know everyone's not going to agree with it. But hey, that's why we have a comment section here. I appreciate you guys always leaving feedback. Let me know what you think about the Jey Uso win. A couple days later, what do you think about it? Give me the reasons why maybe you're more for it than you were before, or give me the reasons why you're still against the idea of Jey getting this opportunity. Always enjoy the feedback, guys. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like button as well, and let me know your thoughts on Jey Uso winning the 2025 Men's Royal Rumble.